Just out of respect for time, I think we'll get going. And if other people join, I am recording this tonight so we can get the information out. And if you know anyone else who's interested and couldn't make it tonight, we certainly can send the video of this meeting out, and or just simply ask the questions and we can get the answers and get them on the right track to knowing more about this trip and the details that they want to know. To start out, I definitely want to introduce both Carol and Angela, as they're the ones going to be, leading and really teaching at some of the different sites, and they're the kind of the foundation of this entire trip, and just amazing Bible teachers. So let's start with you, Angela. So for those that don't know, this is Angela, and I just ask her to say, introduce herself a little bit.
Thank you. Thanks for waiting, guys. I'm sorry. I teach vocal lessons 1 day a week. So Thursdays are my lesson days. So I was teaching right up until 6:30 and tried to rush and get some dinner in me. So I'm sorry for making you wait on me. But yeah, I have been twice to Israel. My husband and I pastor out here outside of Washington, D.C. And he went with John Lindell's church, James River, out of Missouri a few years ago. And I went with Lisa Turker's team, and Russ led that team. And poor guy, him and a handful of guys and about 120 women. So he's still standing after all of that. He needs a medal.
Anytime.
Yeah. And so then I went back with Dale, and Russ was with us leading that team. And Russ, how many times have you been?
About 106.
Are you being serious? I thought it was 60 something.
No, we've gone a lot more. I mean, it's a lot. We've been doing it for 22 years, and I average between 20 and 15 a year. So I love it. I still love to go.
Wow.
Looking forward to going back.
So I've been twice and he's been 106 times. So that's why we're going to defer to him on all things. He was actually with me when we were there that second time. I filmed for the Bible study Fearless, which is my second Bible study. So that gave me a chance to not only explore Israel, but then also to, you know, see a little bit of a different angle of it as we were filming. And I absolutely love Israel. I was telling Carol, I had a chance of actually having Carol on my podcast again yesterday. We were interviewing, and I told her I feel like it's just like the Bible. You can read the Bible and it can be very shallow, and you can still get a lot out of it, or you can read the Bible and it's inexhaustible, and you could never ever get everything out of the Bible. That's the Bible is so beautifully written in that it appeals to everyone. I feel like Israel is the same way. I think it's an amazing experience. People who don't even know much about the Bible. Russ can attest the fact that we had a couple of people on our trip with Lisa that I'm not even sure were believers. I believe they might have made that profession of faith at the Jordan River when they were choosing to be baptized for the first
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
And yet they were still soaking in this experience. And you had people that were seasoned, avid Bible readers and were engaging in the history and all those kind of things. My At the time, I think he was 19. Russ, my son, went with me and Dale. He and Russ really hit it off well. And so Christian and I are two different generations, and yet he got so much out of the trip. It was so life changing for him. Um, so yeah, so we're thrilled to go back, and it's not just for women. I've already had some men reach out and some women asking if they can bring their spouses. So yes, Carol and I will be teaching, but we will have a Jewish guide. I'm sure Russ will explain all of that. So there's nothing about this trip that is going to be just completely for women. If there are men that want to come, we want to make sure that they feel included. And I don't know, Kira, if there's anything else we're going to say. I host a podcast. I am an author. I've authored two Bible studies and a devotional, and I'm working on a co-write with my dad. And then Carol and I can't share too much about it quite yet, but Carol and I are working on a project that will also have something to do with this trip in Israel. And so there's a lot of things in the work that are going to make this a really exciting adventure.
No, that is absolutely perfect as an intro because I think some of the other stuff will come out through the night. So go ahead, Carol, take it away.
Well, unlike Angela and Russ, I've never been to Israel. And, you know, Angela and we've become really good friends over the past, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. And we're alike in a lot of ways. We both love the word, we're both communicators, but we're also not alike in that she's an adventurer and I stay home with a good book in front of the fireplace. And she is the one who has encouraged me to do this. So I'm doing this for two reasons. For my friend Angela, and because it's just something I've always wanted to do. And I feel like the Lord's saying, now is the time to go. And even though Angela didn't tell you this, Angela, I'm going to go ahead and spill the beans just so they know and they can pray. So Angela and I have an idea for a Bible study, and we'd like to tape, shoot it in Israel, a lot of it. And our idea is, and so you guys can be praying as Angela and I work behind the scenes. I was reading my Bible one day. Susie will tell you that most of my ideas come out with this phrase. I was reading my Bible one day and I realized that Jesus asked questions. And so for the next couple months, I just started circling all the questions that Jesus asked. And so Angela and I, what we're doing is we're matching his questions to the places we're going. And we're going to be looking at the questions that Jesus asked because they're still applicable today. They're still power packed today. And there's still questions that deserve an answer from us today. Mm. And so we're matching those questions with the places we're going to be going and take it from there. We do hope to get a publisher who will be interested so that we can do it. So you guys can be praying. Already you're part of the prayer team to pray us into some open doors. So, and this is my husband Craig, and he's praying about going. My good friend Susie Hilchey is here, and her husband John is encouraging Craig to go, so they'll go together, and Keri will keep them busy and out of trouble.
Carol, you have something special for everyone who attends tonight.
Yeah, so we just wanted to bless you guys for joining us tonight, just to learn more about the trip. So if you will email Keri all of your mailing addresses, not email, but mailing addresses, we're going to send each of you a copy of my brand new book that's coming out April the 20th, called The Rooms of a Mother's Heart. And it's a beautiful book. It's rich. And maybe you're not a mom, or maybe you're past that season in life. Well, then give it away. Give it to someone that you know that it will bless. So you just need to email Keri your mailing addresses and we'll get those out to you.
Thank you so much, Carol. And you guys will read that and want to read all our books. I can tell you that right now. And Angela actually endorsed the book. So kind of get a little bit of both. But and next we have Russ, and you know, like you said, he's been there over 100 times and he is an expert on going to Israel. And we are so excited to team up with him and have him be the leader of this tour, and his knowledge and his expertise. We just can't thank you enough for teaming up with us. So go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Keri. I appreciate that. Angela, also, I cannot tell you how much I enjoyed traveling with you and Dale and your son. I mean, that was an incredible experience for me. And I will tell you right now, to all you folks that are on this particular Zoom, you cannot have a better teacher. I don't know Carol that well, but of what I've heard of her, she'd be just equally as good. But Angela is awesome. So I think you'll have an experience that you will not be able to forget. And I'll say this too. Yeah, Angela mentioned something about the Bible and what it does to you. I will tell you that even the number of times that I've been going to Israel, or I've gone, there's something in the Bible each time I go. There's something I experience that I did not experience before. It all depends on where you are in your walk. And I have matured myself for the last 22 years. I didn't become a Christian until I was in my 40s. I'm 71, and I just enjoy reading the Bible as much as anybody. But nothing will set you freer to read the Bible more accurately and be able to see the colors of the words and actually experience it on site. Carol, you'll get to see this when you get to go here. You said you cried just thinking about going. Wait till you see the sites and then read scripture along with it. It's awesome, just amazing. So I'm excited about all of you that are on the Zoom tonight. Thank you for taking your time. What I want to do tonight is just give you some, first of all, we're going to show a video to give you some highlights of some of the sites you will see. It's a video we use and send to all of our tour leaders so they can show it to the churches. There's very little narrative in it, and I just wanted to give you a chance to see. And on the other side of that, then we'll go through a relatively brief presentation, some slideshows, slide stuff, basically information about the tour. And obviously, with everything that's been going on with COVID, I know a lot of your questions are going to have to do with that, and I'll do my best to answer to you what I do know. I'm excited to believe that it will definitely be open by next year, by the time you're going. But I will go over that. We'll have a slide that talks a little bit about that and some of the effect that the COVID has had. So at the end of that, the slideshow, then it's Q&A. And I'm here to answer any question that you have. And if I don't have the answer for it, I will get it. I'll send it to Keri. Keri can forward it to you. And Keri, you said that you're going to videotape this. So the presentation that you'll have on the videotape will be seen by everybody, right?
Yes, I can get it to anybody who wants to see it.
Okay, perfect. Normally when we go and do these things in person, we then actually send the PowerPoint presentation to everybody via email. So that's good to hear. Okay, Keri, can you play the video for me? Thanks, Keri. Appreciate that. That will give you just a little bit of a snippet of what you're going to see on you. You might have noticed one slide that said Garden Gethsemane. That's the garden where I understand that Sammy's going to dance, if I understand it correctly. So that's going to be awesome. As I mentioned that Sammy at the very beginning, I'm sure if you heard me, Angela, but of the 22 years I've been doing this, that would be the first time we've ever had a dancer. So this would be awesome. I'm just so excited about that opportunity. And in the Garden Gethsemane, it's a private area. And so it's something that you won't be bothering anybody else. Music's not going to be a problem. So, and you're there for an hour. So you got plenty of time to do that. So.
And you know what, Russ? Because you filmed Fearless with me, Sammy was at the release of Fearless and she danced to a song called Fearless at the release of that book that we filmed in Israel. So it's kind of a full circle moment, and she's an extraordinary dancer, and it would be a moment no one would forget from the trip, I promise.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, that's going to be really exciting.
Pressure, Sammy, right? I said no pressure on this call, and we're all like, Sammy, you have to go.
I know, but I just feel like I have to go, like it's gonna happen.
Well, you're committed now. We just set you up. You gotta go. Okay, so right now what we want to do is I'm gonna go ahead and go through some of the slides, and I'll try to be not real quick, but also I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because it's fairly self-explanatory. And then at the end of it, when we have the Q&A, will be the time for us to get down to some nitty-gritty questions that you may have about it. And that's really the important part. So Keri, if you would start the first slide. Okay, so just as a point of reference, this is the dates that are the dates that we're going to have for the trip. April 23rd through May 4th. It's a 10-day trip. The last trip that Angela did with Dale was a 12-day tour. But this has all the nuances in it and sites to be seen as she did on the 12 days. So, and it's a little less expensive, which is really helpful for this. As you can see, it's led by Angela, Donadio, and Keri McLeod, and which I'm very excited about. Good to meet her. Next slide. Okay, this is the cost of the tour. Now, the $30.50 per person land only. What the land only means is that you're going to register and then get your own air. We are going to have group air, and I'll cover that in just a second. But this land only just means that you're going to get your own air, and it won't matter when you arrive or when you have to depart from Israel. You'll be met at the airport. Part of your price is that you'll always be met at the airport. You'll be escorted to your transfer, and then your transfer will take you to the hotel. It's all including the price. So it doesn't matter when you arrive or what day you leave. That's all arranged for you. So you'll have that as a setup. So no one will be left alone, just so you know that. The single supplement is something that the suppliers charge us when someone wants a room alone. I don't like it. It's a rationale that they give us that I've never bought in 22 years, but it's something that just happens in a lot of European hotels. And what their excuse is that if I have the same cost with one person as I do with two, but I lose the ancillary sales in the hotel on the second person. So they charge us a fee for it. And so that's what that is. So if you want a room alone, or you end up rooming alone because there's no roommate because you're registered late, then that's going to be a fee that you're going to be charged on top of the $30.50. Okay, next slide. I mentioned that we are going to have group air come up pretty soon here, right? The airlines do not release their schedules or their prices until about 330 days prior to a tour departure date. So in this case, we won't really know what the airfare actually is until June of 2021. That's when we'll get the schedule, we'll get the airline, we'll get the price. We'll post that on the tour webpage, which I'll show you at the very end of this presentation. And at that time, obviously, everybody's going to be registered land only because that's the only option you're going to have. You can let me know, I've changed my mind, I'd like to go ahead and get the group air. The only condition with group air is that I have to have 10 people buy it. Otherwise, it's not group air, and they flip us back to individual air, and I can't guarantee the price. Because by that time, it's final payment only 100 days prior to the trip. So I just want to lay that out as a caveat. The group air does this, and obviously with COVID, there's been a lot of imposed upon restrictions that we haven't had before, and they're getting pretty strict about that particular rule. Okay, next slide. Okay, what are you required to travel? This is one of the things we're not quite sure yet. What we do know is that when our communication with the airlines and also with our office in Israel is that they'll say that you have possibly an option. I don't think they can require you to get a vaccine. We just don't know yet. Airlines sometimes deal it differently than the actual country tourism department. In Israel right now, they're not open to US travelers because we're considered a red country. It's a country that has too many cases by the population rate. They are accepting green countries, which are like Australia and other places that have very low cases. And right now what they're requiring is for them to come in, they get tested, but they have to show either a vaccination or they have to show a negative COVID test within 72 hours of the tour departure date. It's a little bit bogus with that, I think, because you can be negative today and positive tomorrow. And so I'm not quite sure exactly what they're going to do with that. But hopefully by the time you get ready to take off, it'll be a lot less restrictive and we'll have a lot more feeling about that. I've been told by our office that Israel should be opening it up to all US travelers by the beginning of the summer, which means we'll have all the information we need to have in regards to pass on to those who register. But if you get a vaccination, you're pretty much sealed that you'd have no problem getting through the thing. They did tell us that at points they may do random testing to people just to check things out. We don't know what what's going to be required to you on the bus or on the sites in regards to mask. We just don't have that information yet. But again, by the time they open the country up, by the beginning of summer or so, then we'll have all those answers for you, and I'll relay that to you just as soon as I get it. Okay. All right. Next slide. There are meals included in the price of the tour. All the breakfast and dinner and the lunches are all included. Right now, in the past, and Angela will attest to this, all of the hotels have buffets. What we don't know is what's going to happen to the buffet when they don't want you touching their food or the handles and things like that. So they may end up having a buffet line to which they serve you, that you have to tell them what you want, and just like a cafeteria style. We don't know that yet. And again, by the time that we get to the tour in April, then that could all change too. And they may have restrictions released and let up in the buffets and get back the way you want it. The buffets are excellent. The hotels you're staying in are extremely good hotels. And the food is exquisite. You will not go hungry at all. If anyone has any allergies or any kind of food issues, let me know when you register. And then we pass that on to our suppliers in our office in Israel, who passes it on to your guide. And that person will know pretty much if you have any issues. And when you get to the lunches or dinners and you say, look, I've got issues with gluten, they'll assist you with trying to find food on the buffet or when you sit down for lunch to what to order and help you out with that. So there's a lot of people that can assist you with that, because it's not, food allergies are not something unique for people who travel to all over the world. But you do have 7 lunches as indicated in the tour itinerary that is all included as well. What's good about the lunches, and smart so much for Dale and Angela and Carol to do this, is before about 2 years ago, we would always leave lunches as options because we figured that some people want to buy, some don't want to buy. What we ended up finding out was that when people who really wanted to buy didn't want to spend $15, so they wouldn't eat. They got sick, they got tired. And so what we end up doing is say, look, as a mandate, we're just going to tell you, we're doing it. And actually, Angela and Dale's trip they did last time was one of the first ones we actually worked with. And after that, it went so well, we mandated it now. So everybody has to do it. The other side of it is, before, if you had lunch as an option, but you had to pay for yourself, you can actually be stuck in the lunch restaurant for an extra half hour while people are paying individually. By doing it this way, you get to walk in, sit down, eat, and get up and leave. There's no exchange of money. There's nothing. They have vouchers that the guide will have, give it to the restaurants. And so it could make it where you have an extra hour or so in a given day, then the guy can add something to the itinerary that's not in the itinerary right now. So we're trying to avoid 2 things. One is not spend so much time while you're trying to pay your money or feel like you're getting nickel and dime to death. And the other one is we want to be able to allow you 2 things. One is to be able to not cut short any site that you're in already, and hopefully have some extra time that the guy can surprise you with a place to go. Or Angela might think and Kara might think of something they want to go see, try to fit it into the itinerary, and you may have extra time to do that way. Okay? And the reason we do it this way, I know it's also that we want it to be nonstop. I mean, a full stop menu. When you pay your price, that's all you pay. When you get there, nothing else you have to buy unless you want to buy a gift for yourself or friends. Other than that, when you pay up front, you pay up front. And that is it. Okay, so next slide. As I just mentioned, everything is covered within your price, and this is the other thing that's covered. All the tips are covered. You are not required to pay tips when you get there, even to the bellman who take your luggage up to the rooms. It's all included. It's a good chance, unfortunately, I cannot join you on this tour, but a good chance that Sue will, my wife, and who she is just so excited about going. And so with that, she will be the one that has all the gratuity. She'll handle all of that stuff for Angela and Carol. They don't have to worry about any of that administrative stuff while they're there. And so we'll make sure that all of that is taken off their hands. Guide doesn't handle it, anything. So we'll handle all that. But again, this covers all the costs that you would typically have by some other tour companies that require you to do that on your own. All right, next slide. There you go. Always asked, is the water safe to drink? Absolutely. Israel is one of the very few Middle East countries that have got 9 water purifiers. And they take all their water, used to take their water from the Sea of Galilee, and they would purify it, use it through some systems they have there. But as you will find out when you get there, the Sea of Galilee's water has really reduced. by lack of water, by the drought side of it. They have very hot summers. And so what they decided to do was create something a little more technologically smart. They're now taking water out of the Mediterranean. And they're actually cleaning it up that way. So they have an endless work of water. They'll never run out. They also supply all the water for Jordan. So they have got very, very, very drinkable water. I drink right out of the tap. So I have never been sick once. Now, having said that, there are some folks' systems can't quite take even different water in a different location because their chemicals are not like what we have. So we will also put bottled water on the bus, free of charge to you. So my encouragement to you when you go, and even in April and May, it will be warm. It won't be excruciatingly warm, but it'll be warm. Drink as much water as you can. I have had so many people, even in February, think they don't have to drink water. The climate in Israel is really different. So you've got to drink as much water. The average consumption per day is 3 to 4 bottles. So please, it's free of charge. It'll be stuck in a refrigeration unit in the dash of the bus. When you walk off, get off the bus, you grab a bottle, on your way you go. Just take as much as you can, okay? And just stay hydrated. That's really, really key. All right, next slide. How much money should you bring? Another big question. Again, like I said, there's no expense to you when you get there other than what you want to spend on your own. This $150, $200 per person really is one that's applicable to people when we weren't doing lunches, but we have been chewed out in the past by not saying take up enough money cash with you, because some folks do end up buying and they don't really want to use their credit card a lot. And so what I tell them to do is go ahead and bring some money with you, maybe $150, $200 a person per American money. You can certainly convert it there if you want to into the shekel. You can do it right at the hotel, or you can actually go to a ATM machine, which is all over the place, and use your ATM card and get cash out, and it'll be kicked out to you in shekels. What I tell people to do is, if you want to bring your American money, that's fine, but go to the ATM and kick out about $100 to $200 worth of just shekels and have it on you. And then spend that first before you have to spend your credit card, because you will be charged your fees and all stuff for the credit card. Some of that stuff is more expensive over there. And so use that up first before you use your American dollars. But also use your credit card when you think it's appropriate. The only place right now that I do not want you to try and use your credit card is in the old city. That's in the old city of Jerusalem. There have been, and the guide will explain this to you as well, but there have been some pretty bad experiences by some of the tour groups where a person would go in, they buy a piece of luggage for $50, and some of these machines, they have these machines go like this. And next thing you know, 10 days later, you get home, and you have a $3,000 charge in your credit card, and you will not go back to Israel to try to fight it. So we tell people in that area, just do not use that. The guide will tell you where the good place is to use your credit card. They will not let you go someplace where the credit card usage is going to be questionable. Okay? All right. The other thing is, if you do bring your money, keep it in lower denominations, the 1s, 5s, and 10s. Don't bring 20s, 50s, and 100s. Because if you happen to take a cab ride at nighttime, and you don't have your shekels, but you do have dollars, you want to use American dollars in low denominations. So when they give you change back in shekels, you're not trying to figure out what's the $20 exchange, and when you pay them for a $2 cab ride, are you getting enough money back in shekels? You just won't be able to do that. So keep it in lower denominations if you want to do it. And this just stays, again, what I just indicated, that there are credit card and debit card ATMs all over the place. You will not have a problem using your debit or credit card to try to get cash out if you need to. Okay? And it's so many places accept credit card too, so it's not an issue. Next slide. Power adapters. Obviously, the power over there in Israel is different than here. So for a long time, we were having people try to find power adapters for themselves when they go over there. We now send out what's called a travel packet at the end of when everybody registers and pays their final payment. And inside that travel packet, we send you a plug per person. So it's used to do, so you have to worry about finding it. If you do want to get an extra more than one plug, they're on Amazon for $3 for 3. So it's not a big deal. But we'll send you one that's set up for Israel. And what it really is for is not to power up hair dryers and irons and things like that that aren't closed, because it's really meant for lower voltage areas. So it's only meant to power up your electronics, your computers, your cameras, your laptops, and things like that. And it works very well. But don't try to put it through a hair dryer on it, because it won't work. Curling irons will absolutely explode it. We've had hotel wings get shut down because someone used a curling iron and it melted and all the power went out. Because you gotta remember, a lot of these hotels that are over there have been retrofitted. So they've been a lot, there hasn't been a lot of new hotel being built, but they've retrofitted everything. So they're still dealing with some of the power outage. So we'll make sure you have the power outage, the power plug for you and your power in your packet when you get it after everybody registers and pays their final payment. Okay, next one. Hotels all have internet. There's no charge for it. I will tell you that depending upon the hotel where you're in, if you're in the upper floors, you'll have the less power, less signal than you will on the lower floors. It's the way it works, because they can't put a server on every floor, a router. So they put it in the middle of the hotel and the main lobby of the hotel, and it covers all the rooms. But I've had people get really frustrated because all of a sudden they come home, they come back from the tour, go upstairs, and they try to use their internet. And what happens? Every tour company, every tour group is doing the exact same thing. So they're drawing down all the power off of the server that you're trying to get onto, makes it really slow. My advice is use your computer a little bit later at night or early in the morning, or use the one down the lobby, because that's where the main server is kept. But it's all free of charge. They're really fast and it works really well. Plus, all of the buses, or your bus, will definitely have Wi-Fi on the bus. So you'll be able to operate, and they're endless Wi-Fi units that you can put on it, cell phone and iPads and things like that. The request is that when you're done on it, get off while you're on the bus. The thing you got to remember is that if your phone, you're using your Wi-Fi in the phone, and you have it on not on airplane mode, but you open it up so you can receive emails that way. The minute you step off the bus, you're gonna get back onto the cellular, and you're gonna get a whole bunch of texts and stuff like that you haven't never necessarily seen. So you'll be reminded of this while you're on the bus, but just make sure you turn everything off before you get off the bus when you're on Wi-Fi on the bus. And it works really well to have it. There are some places while you're traveling that the Wi-Fi is a little weak. Dead Sea is one of those areas when you're traveling, because there's not many towers at that area. But places like Jerusalem and Tiberias and Tel Aviv, they're metropolitan cities, and you'll have no problem with that then. Okay, all right, next slide. What do you wear? Choose the next slide real quick, if you would. The temperature in April and May in Israel is around 60 degrees. So I should be reversed, excuse me, 77 degrees high and 60 degrees low. That's really good temperature actually to travel in. What you'll find out is that you're colder in Jerusalem than you are in Tiberias and Tel Aviv. Jerusalem is 2,700 feet above sea level. So you're a little higher altitude than you are in Tiberias, which is 600 feet below sea level. And so you have you have to take in mind when you dress. You can go back to the other slide now. When you dress, what you wear to accommodate for the different cities you're in. Tel Aviv's right on the coast. Keri, you can go back to the other slide. There, thank you. When you're in Tel Aviv on the coast, which is only for one night, you are by the water, you're by the coast, and it will be chilly in the morning, then it will be when you get ready to leave. And at nighttime when you arrive, or whatever the time you are going to arrive, hopefully just late afternoon, you're going to want to go outside and walk on the beach and see things like that. So bring some light, like a light wind jacket or something like that. Don't bring heavy coats, don't bring heavy sweatshirts, things like that, because it can rain even in April and May. So the key with this is the rain clothes that are comfortable for you. Shorts are very, very appropriate during this time of the year. You'll find a lot of people wear, if it's chilly in the morning, they'll wear a pair of pants or a travel pants over their shorts. And as it cools off, they just take the travel pants off and shorts you got. There is no formal wear at all, no ties, no coats, none of that kind of stuff. So it's really, the head coverage you want, no head covers are required, except that when you go to the Wailing Wall, for the men, head cover is required. But we only put this in to put head covers, because even in that time of the year when you're not going to have super hot, you will be very super sunny, and you can get burned really, really bad. So just bring a hat. Doesn't matter what it is. It can be a beanie. Doesn't matter what it is, as long as you like what you have. Bring it, because you will appreciate that, especially when you go to the Dead Sea. Comfortable shoes, I cannot emphasize that enough. When you get ready to go into and do some of the walking that you have, and I know one of the questions that is how much walking do you do? There's quite a bit of walking in this kind of a tour. Israel is not that big, and so it doesn't take you long to get from one site to the other, maybe an hour, hour and a half max. And then you're always off the bus, going back on the bus, getting in the sites. There's no long walking at one time except for one day, and that's the day you go to the old city in Jerusalem. When you get off the bus on the around 9 o'clock in the morning, and then you walk all day long until you hit the bus until about 4:30 or 5, unless the guide changes how you do that. So that one's a little bit harder because that's on hard pan. It's all street. It's all sidewalk. So walking, definitely a lot of walking. My rule of thumb is that if you can carry a bag of groceries up 2 flights of stairs and back down again and not get super winded, you're fine. You'll have no problem walking. If someone wants to go and let's say they want to travel and they're in a wheelchair, which is just fine, then we will request that they bring someone who can help with the wheelchair so it doesn't put the burden on the other people that are traveling. Second, you're going to have a couple of issues and a couple of sites that you want to travel, especially in the old city with wheelchairs. So we just need to be prepared for that. So Angela, you and Carol, when you get people talking to you about something like that, just make sure that wheelchairs are welcome. That's not a problem. But understand that there's some places will be more a little difficult for them to get to. Okay. Conservative wear is really where you go to certain sites that require you to have your shoulders covered, your knees covered. Almost always not your head, because other than the Western Wall for men, but there are certain sites such as the Mount of Beatitudes in Tiberias where they do not allow you to go in there with shorts, or you can have shorts, but they have to show below your kneecaps. So you'll go there and you'll find that there are a lot of groups who actually go and wear shorts, and you'll see that some of them will be kicked out. Mount of Beatitudes, for example, is run by nuns, and they are not patient. And so they have strict dress codes, and they want you to honor. My rule of thumb is this, and the guide will tell you the night before when you're required to wear conservative clothing. My rule of thumb is this is their culture. We are outsiders come into their world. We need to abide by their rules. And I really advise and strongly ask all of our participants and the tour leaders to honor what they want them to do, no matter how hot it may be. You want to honor where you're required to cover your knees and cover your shoulders. Okay, so that's the only requirement I have. And like I said, every night before you get up and go to the hotel, the guide will tell you tomorrow it's conservative wear or it's religious wear. You have to be prepared to cover your shoulders and your knees. Be prepared to do that. Okay. All right. Next slide, please. Travel insurance. All right. Travel insurance, I will tell you, it's really important to have. I cannot mandate you have it yet. What I don't know is if the airlines or if the country itself is going to require everybody to have travel insurance to travel. And there's a particular reason for that, and it's because of what COVID has done to the travel insurance industry. It has devastated it. I was talking to our insurance agent yesterday, and they were telling me that one of the reasons why they're having to change some of the procedures, which your next slide will show, is because there are quite a few tour companies like us, COVID killed. They had all the premiums paid to them. They walked away with all the money. And the insurance companies lost millions of dollars. So they're trying to protect themselves, and I fully understand it. I just do not know if it's going to be required by the countries. I'll be able to tell you that ahead of time. So this is what it covers if you do get it. Trip cancellation, which means that if you paid your total cost of your trip on the final payment and you're 30 days out, someone in your family gets ill or dies, or you fall and break a leg or something that prevents you from going, travel insurance covers that full boat, except for the premium. The premium is not refundable. Trip interruption. When we were in, when COVID hit us in March of last year, I was in Egypt with 135 people. And 2 days into it, we got hit with COVID. The country was shut down by President Trump. And I had to get 120 something people back home very quickly. Well, they missed the entire tour in Cairo because of that. Well, when they got back, I got everybody back, and we got everybody refunded the air, but the land part was not being refunded because they were already 100% cancellation. So what we ended up doing was we followed the insurance company. We said that, look, this was not a trip cancellation that we did. This was a trip interruption. Well, what they did is they found out that the reason that they were able to refund those individuals that went to the Cairo pre-trip was because there was a huge storm that shut all the countries down there, and we got all their money back for them. However, trip interruption or trip cancellation does not cover a pandemic. So when the folks that never left, because that was on a pre-trip, the ones who never left to go on the trip to meet us in Greece, they lost all their money. So don't be misconstrued about the fact that if you buy trip insurance, it will cover a pandemic, because it does not. They will not do that. Anyway, it covers medical care while you're touring. It covers anything that happens to you while you're on a tour, all the medical expenses, but it will not cover when you get back any follow-up medical expenses you have at that point. That's when your own insurance will kick in. But that's made to cover that stuff while you're over there. So if something happens to you, the guy will take care of that. You keep all your receipts, no matter what language is in, and you can be covered and get that money back if you get travel insurance. Medical evacuation, we didn't have to do that ever so far. Trip delay, baggage delay, all that kind of stuff. So when you get ready to go and get your insurance, there'll be a brochure sent to you. You'll know exactly what's covered, what's not covered. This is just sort of a brief synopsis of it, okay? Next thing. Okay, here's what's happened because of COVID. We as a group and company can no longer sell travel insurance through us. But what we do is we've worked with the insurance companies to offer group insurance through our license. So what they're requiring you to do is when you register, and this happens as of May 15th. So after May 15th, there'll be a new process when you register. When you register now, you go on, they ask you if you want insurance, yes or no. You click no, you click yes, and there's a price for it, and you pay us for it. What's going to happen now is that it's going to say yes or no. If you say yes, it's going to pop up window and instruct you to, when the confirmation email comes to you, which happens within minutes, there will be a link, special link that's controlled to your particular tour. And on that link is how you go and apply for your insurance. You will handle that insurance payment through the insurance company directly. And that's only because all those companies that folded and never gave money back to the insurance company. So they want to control all the money. They don't want any tour companies like us to control it. So you'll pay them. You don't have to pay the premium until you pay the final payment to us, your regular final payment to the tour. Same time, you have to get on that link and pay it to the insurance company. That's the change that we have. The premium that's a little bit higher than it was before, for all obvious reasons, because they got killed and they're going to raise their premiums. But as a group insurance, we get it less expensive than you do. So that's a process. So as we get more information about how the insurance is going to be handled, what the form's going to look like, I will send a copy of that to Keri. She'll be able to have that to get those people. But when we get it, I want to give you a heads up that this is the way the thing's going to start working now after May 15th of this year. Okay. All right. What documents are you required to have? Obviously, you're required to have a passport. And let's see, I can't see the date because my thing's blocked. What's the date on, Keri? Is it November 4th?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that date is, I'm sorry, I can't see it because I have windows of people looking at this. That date that you see there, that's when your passport cannot expire. Not one day before that. So if you have a passport and it expires on that date or after, fine. If you expire on the date before that, you have to get it renewed. So keep that in mind when you look at your passports. All right. Are you required to have a visa to travel to Israel? No, you do not. The little blue sheet of paper you see down at the bottom is something you get at the Tel Aviv airport when you check in through customs. This a little thing that you put inside your passport. It's about the size of a small credit card. And it'll have your picture on it like it shows here. And it allows you to, as a temporary visa for 30 days to travel in Israel. What they used to do is stamp it, but they've had other Middle East countries not like the fact that you went to Israel and wouldn't let you in the countries. So to avoid that, they went and gave you this thing. They ask you to try not to lose it. If you do, don't panic. It's not a big deal. But what I do is I put it in the middle of my passport, because you don't have to touch your passport until you go to Bethlehem. So I leave it there so it doesn't get bothered. But you'll get that when you go through customs control at the airport in Tel Aviv. And the reason I want you to keep, because they may ask to see it when you get ready to leave. So again, if you lose it, don't panic. It happens. Very quickly, I'm not going to go over this. This is the list of hotels that you'll get when you get the copy of this presentation. These are great hotels. And so especially the Harris Dead Sea, which is my fave. So these are hotels that you're going to really have a really good time with. They're all 4+ star hotels. The Harris Hotel is almost a 5-star. So you will thoroughly enjoy these hotels. Okay, Keri, next one. Okay, how do you register? What you want to do is you want to go to our website, www.faithbasedexpeditions.com. Next slide. You'll get this window right here, which is our homepage. On the just below the inspiring your spiritual journey, it says join a tour. You hit the join a tour. Next slide, and this is what you get. So you'll get a thing that says enter your tour code, submit, and go to the page. This is the tour code you're going to enter. ROL 422AD. Really what that stands for is River of Life, April 2022, Angela Donadio. Okay, and when you hit that, next page, it's going to take you to their website. Now, this is only the upper part of the web page. I'm not going to have it here, but as you did it, you'll scroll down to the bottom. It gives you all the information about the tour. And then just right there, you see a button that says book now. You hit that, and then it'll take you to the registration page, to which you fill out. And that's how you end up doing your deposit and registering for the tour. Once you register for the tour like that, you'll receive 2 emails. One from a brief confirmation that you've registered. Thank you very much. And then another one, a little more extended one from us. It comes from my signature. And that's where you'll have a link to the insurance premium, how do you get your insurance, purchase your insurance for the tour. Also, how you end up viewing what's called your dashboard. And your dashboard is what you can get into via your email address that you register with to change things. You can look at where your invoice sets, you can look at change your address and all that kind of stuff. It allows you to control only your registration page. Okay, so we'll consider it, but that's the second one that you get. Okay, deadlines of payment, initial registration deposit, $400 per person. You do that at the time of registration. You can do it through credit card, you can do it through check. January 16th is the date of the final payment, which is due to in our office. It's 100 days prior to the trip. So that's when that's due that. You want to avoid this and pay it on time, because otherwise after the 16th, then there's going to be a $95 late charge penalty, because anybody who registers after this date is charged extra $95, because it's just the way that we're requiring us to do this. Your passport has to be to us, scan it and email it to us at least by this date. If you have it before that, please send it to me. The reason I have to have that is that I have to send a list of all the people to our U.S. Embassy in Israel who's traveling with our group. So I have to have all that. They need to see the copy of our passport. I need to have a copy of passports to make sure the information that I send them is correct. Your passport number, your birth date, your name, expiration and issue date, and where you're born, and it's on your passport. And the other thing is that if I go to get group air, I got to make sure that your name is spelled exactly the way it shows up in your passport, and I got to see your passport to make sure that's the case. Because if one letter in your name is off when I get ready to issue your group ticket, they will charge me $75 to $150 to change one letter. So very important. All right, that's it. That is the presentation, and going back to the slide to show the dates. So let's go to Q&A. Who has questions?
So I do, Tacey.
Okay.
So is January 20, whatever the day is that the last day to register? Let's say you didn't do an initial register. What's the last day to do an initial registration?
I think it is on, let's see, you're going to April, March 12th, I think it is. March 12th, where we have to close it off and turn in all of the
Okay.
the roomie list and all the names of the people that are going. But remember, if you wait till after that time to register, then there'll be an extra $95 that you have to pay.
Okay.
But yeah, it doesn't
Okay.
cut off at that date. It's just, that's a date that we want to make sure that we have to send our preliminary list of people on that date to our supplier to let them know that we have a number of rooms that we're holding that's still right.
Okay.
Oh, and the other thing you want to make, so people who have group air, 2 days after that is when I have to release all unused group air seats that I have. Otherwise I get penalized. So I have to know that people that are going to pay, if they have group air, they pay for it. If they haven't paid for it by that time, and after that 2 days later, there will be no group air available. So
Okay.
that's why we set up a date like that.
Okay.
To help you? Okay.
Yeah, no, I broke my knee
Ow.
and I want to know how I'm going to feel. So I'm trying to,
Sure. No, I understand. Not a problem.
but January's fine. That should be, I should know.
Good. I'm sorry
All
you
right.
broke your knee. That's terrible. You get the questions? Lay it on me.
I just made a note in the chat. If you didn't jot all that down, Keri will send this out, but it's also on the rolva.org website. It's on my website, and that's connected straight to our spot right on Faith-Based Expeditions. So you can get there a number of ways, or just message one of us if you forget that. And if you're serious about going, make sure you check your passport at some point. You know, I've been on trips, not to Israel, but to Africa, where people just did not check it in time, and then they were really scrambling to make sure their passport was valid and up to date and all of that good stuff too. I will just speak. Thank you, Russ. Great job. Like, these are really nice hotels. Like he said, the meals are amazing. I've been on, I don't know, I can't count how many missions trips I've been on. It's in the dozens. I've been to Africa 20 times, and I've slept in mud huts. I will do, you know, like Carol said, I'm very adventurous, but we understand that, yes, there is of course, a very spiritual element to this, but this is not a missions trip. And this is you are well cared for on this trip. So it's a different lens. If you've gone on a missions trip before, this is a trip that you are thoroughly loved on. Every single thing is taken care of for you. There's a big difference. It may not seem like it on paper, but Russ will tell you there's a big difference in the hotels. If you go from 4 stars to 3, it can. Russ
You do not want to do that.
I don't want to do it, and I may or may not have done it. So, and I was not a person who put the whole ward out of electricity, but I have been known. I have been known to blow some adapters. So there are things. Of course, I was filming. Carol and I would be filming. So I needed to have my hair done, and, you know, I couldn't just always be in a hat. So there are actual things on Amazon now that have like the switches that I use them all the time in Africa, curling irons, hair dryers. Most of our 4-star hotels have hair dryers built in. So like if there was yeah. So if that bothers you, just know there's always workarounds for things like that. But yeah, I put that in the chat about the link and about checking on your passport just to make sure you're not scrambling. Russ, is there any advantage for people to register early and secure their spot? Or I don't think that's refundable. So I want to make sure people feel really comfortable before they put that $400 down. What do you recommend to make sure, hey, wait on this, or don't wait too long past this, that kind of a thing?
One of the things I'm telling people now is that if you are adamant that you're not going to take a vaccine, then I would recommend you not register until we know what the rules are going to be. Because if it is required to do that, you don't want to go the hassle of registering, then me trying to get the money back to you and that sort of thing. And it can be very cumbersome to do that sort of thing. There is really no advantage to register early. I want people to register comfortably, that they have the money to pay. The longer you register, the other thing you can do, and so people understand this, that you can register and also make monthly payments. You don't have to wait to the very end to make this big balloon payment. So there are numbers, and I'll work with people. I really will. So it's only critical if I have a lot of group air. If I don't have a lot of group air, because get questioned by the airlines periodically. How many seats have you sold? And if it's not enough from what I have held, then they can take seats away. So I have to be careful with not having enough seats that people have registered for in order to make sure that. So if they wait too long, that's okay. There is no penalty from our hotels to do that. I'm under serious penalty if they go past the final payment due date. And so I just got to make sure that, the tour is going to go. You got to understand that in Israel and in Greece and in Turkey, these people have been out of work for almost a year and a half. And I've had a lot of guys get canceled on the last year and a half, and they are trying to make ends meet. And we don't want to set them up for a tour that isn't going to go because we can't convince people to go. And all of a sudden, I got to let them go because they need to find someone who can give them a tour. That's the other risk I run, is that if I can't tell our suppliers we've got a tour that's really valuable, the guide might say, I can't do it. I've got to find something that'll give me money. So other than those sort of things, which are more emotional type of situations, there's no technical reason why a person has to register anytime before the final payment due date, to be honest with you. So, but I will back up something that Angela just said, which is very important. It's not a mission trip, but we really do define it as a pilgrimage. It's a way for you to really have a comfortable travel environment, being guided by experts guided and led by people like Angela and Carol. But this is for you to have a spiritual enlightenment. I mean, this is for you to get that part of your life together. It is not a vacation. And we try to make sure people understand that. You're not there to rest and just to kind of do and kind of go in your own little, you have to stick with a guideline of timing that we have. But it's a pilgrimage. It's meant for you to learn the Bible and get inspired by it. And I'm convinced people will have no problem having that be the end result. Okay, any other questions?
I have one, Russ. This is
Yes, ma'am.
Sue and John. Can you explain to us the concept of group air? I'm not familiar with that, and how everybody is, I assume, coming from different locations. Do we get to one location and then go all together?
No, again, I'm not sure exactly who's all in the marketing side of who's going to be told about this. I understand that Keri may get her own church to do something like that. Right now, it'll go out of Washington Dulles, will be the departure airport.
Okay.
So if other folks are coming from other parts of the country, we're not requiring them to go to Washington Dulles and connect. That's not it.
Oh.
It's really meant for people who can actually want to be part of the group. They don't want to fly by themselves. They want to fly with some people they know. So we constitute group air as being something that is set in stone. You once the price is set, you pay nothing more. And so it's out of one city and it comes back to one city.
Okay.
So that's the constitution of group air. Now, some folks will say, I want to go a day early. Can I get on group air and go a day early? The answer is yes, as long as the airlines allows it to have what they call a deviation, which means you're outside the realms of what the rules is when you depart from the city and date as specified and return to the city and date as specified. If someone wants to arrive early or stay late, we can probably arrange that, but I'll have to know that sooner than later. Because if I don't have enough, if I don't have enough time, the airlines will say, no, we sold all our seats, we can't have you leave early. So that's just in group air and individual air. Individual air, you can get air from anywhere you want to.
Okay.
Fly from anywhere you want to. But group air, you have to leave and come back at the same city that's set up.
Is there any advantage price-wise to we're not that far from Washington Dulles, so I don't know if we would go there or not, but.
Actually, it's hard to say because we've been getting some really good rates now. Typically, group rates are not as good as individual rates.
Okay.
The only advantage you have for group rates is that if you do it with a group rate, you don't have to pay for it until 100 days prior to the trip. If you get your own air, you got to pay for it when you book it.
Of course. Okay.
So that's the only advantage. I tell people, look, if you think you can find air cheap in the weekend as a group, go for it, because I want people to pay as little as they have to.
Okay. Thanks.
So we might have a group right from Buffalo too.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
In the chat, I put my email, cell phone. If you have questions, even if it's the smallest detail, don't hesitate to contact me, and whitelist my email so that when you do get notifications, you're actually getting them, and receiving the information and not having it go to your junk or your spam. And so just send them my way. If I don't know the answer, I'll get a hold of Russ and we'll make sure we get you the information that you need.
Keri, you can also feel free to give them my email address.
Okay.
And my cell phone number. So, I mean, I take emails and cell phone calls all the time.
Okay.
And guys, I'll just say too, when you go on the website, the whole itinerary is there. And just to speak again to what Russ is saying, like, it is a stellar itinerary. You may look at a different tour and say, well, I can go cheaper over here. I'm telling you, you gotta be comparing apples to apples. You gotta be comparing the meals, the hotels, all the sites that you're getting. I mean, it's just, and I've done it 2 different ways. The tour with Lisa was done differently because she was also filming. So we were kind of zigging and zagging and going in a different order versus the trip that I went with Dale and Russ. And that itinerary was just, it was absolutely amazing. So it's everything that you would want. I can't imagine you would leave there and feel like you got jilted in any way. I think we might have left off 1 or 2 places that Dale and I went. Correct me if I'm wrong, Russ, but I think we're not going to Jericho.
No, you're going to drive by Jericho. However, what I had told all our guides is that if the tour leader wants to stop at Jericho, make it happen. So those sort of things can take place. You just have to figure out the push and pull on what you may have to give up time-wise and something else. But you're only scheduled to actually just go by it.
And we have there's 2 baptism sites. There's a very rustic kind of baptism area. Maybe Russ, you could speak to that. I know some people may have questions about that later. Bethany by the Jordan versus the actual Jordan River. I think our baptisms are in the Jordan River. Anyone can be baptized, whether you've been baptized before or not. Carol, I guess you and I need to talk about that at some point because my husband did the baptisms. I have not baptized in the Jordan River, nor have I been baptized. So we'll have to talk about if you and I are going to be the ones doing the baptisms. But that, of course, is a very special moment. But Russ, there's 2 sites. Can you speak to that for just a moment?
Yeah, your itinerary has the baptism being taken place in Tiberias at a place called Yardenit.
Okay.
And it's a common site for a lot of people to do baptisms. It's meant for doing that sort of thing. It's clean. The water is very clean. It's running all the time. The other one that you have is in a place called Bethany beyond the Jordan. And it's actually just opposite side of Jericho. And it's basically in the area where the Israelites would have crossed over to get into the land of milk and honey. And so it's where the ark was carried over. And can't say that's the exact site, obviously, but they have set up a baptism site there. It's not as popular as the other site by Americans because they're a little bit more touchy about muddy water. And so the water doesn't run very well there and it's kind of murky. So we don't go there too much to get baptized, but we do stop there so they have a chance to see that Jordan River and that location and watch how somebody else does. There's a lot of Russians and Spanish people and places like that that go in and do their baptisms there. It's a lot less formal and a lot less controlled. So, but we want you to see it so you get an idea of what it's like on the opposite side of the world. And it actually used to be in Jordan. It was just like in the last 5 years that they've actually got access to that part of it. So that's what that area is all about. It's called Bethany Beyond the Jordan.
And it's the same kind of situation with the Dead Sea. I had 2 very different dead. So with Lisa, we were baptized at Bethany by the Jordan. With Dale, we went to the more commercial, I hate to use that word, but the much nicer site. Let's just say it that way. Much cleaner. Dead Sea was the same situation. We had a very quick stop at the Dead Sea on Lisa's tour. I did not enjoy it, to be frank. It was very kind of waiting in, and it was extremely crowded and trying to change kind of in a dirty locker room. And it reminded me of kind of like an amusement park, water slide ride, but we were just rushing. Whereas where we're going on this tour was where Dale and I went, and it is just, it's extraordinary. It's such a nice hotel. There's indoor saltwater pools, outdoor, there's an opportunity to go to the spa there if you want that. And it's just a very, very different experience. So I'm saying these things to say that you can experience Israel a myriad of ways. We're trying to give you what we believe, and from Russ's over 100 times going, one of the best experiences you will ever have touring Israel. And it's
I will tell you that the itinerary you have here, Angela, is actually being plagiarized by a lot of other tour companies. What is making this one unique is the 2 days you stay at the Dead Sea.
Yeah.
It's the fact you're able to get down to the Dead Sea. People have to go to Jerusalem, go back to the Dead Sea, go back to Jerusalem. You spend and actually it's in the middle of the tour, which for people who are getting tired by that time, because you will be, it's really a nice relaxation. You get to go to the Dead Sea and float in a very clean area that's controlled and monitored by the hotel. And you got a spa there that a lot of people, so you remember when we left one day, went to Masada and came back by lunchtime and everybody had the whole afternoon off. That makes a whole world of difference for people in their travel experience when they can do it and not be so tired. So I love your itinerary. I use it a lot.
Thank you. Carol, do you have any more questions with it being your first time?
No, I don't have any more questions other than to just reiterate how excited I am to join Angela and Russ and Keri in doing this. And I just want to say, I know this is a lot of money for people. And if it's in your heart to go, the Lord has a way of providing for these situations. So don't let the money immediately for you to say, oh, I can't do this. Listen, just take some time and pray about it. Shoot Keri or Angela and I an email and we'll be praying with you. But the Lord has a way of providing for these experiences in life, because wanting to walk where Jesus walked, it's an honor, it's a privilege. And I know for many of you, like for me, it's a bucket list desire. So I'll be praying with you for the money, but don't let the finances be the final decider. Stand in faith and ask God to provide for you and see what he will do.
Well said.
Some people even, they wrote letters to friends and family. Like I mentioned, the Sammy as a dancer and in ministry, people to know that she's going to dance in the Garden of Gethsemane. I know Harmony was on here earlier. She has a ministry. So, we can be very creative in the ways God can provide funds. You may have someone that wants to just sew and pay for your trip to go. So I agree with Carol. And all my trips to Africa, I say the same thing to people who have a burden or a heart to go. Don't let finances be the reason you say no. If you feel like God is calling you, I agree with Russ. There's no need to rush. But at the point you feel like I really am supposed to do this, then we're just going to believe between now and the time you need to make that commitment, God will make it really clear. So it's going to be a really amazing experience. And after we all haven't been, and Israel is, going to be, I interviewed someone a few weeks ago who's been the head of their vaccination program. I think they have 60 or 70% of their country vaccinated. And by then, it's just going to be such a great feeling to just be out again and traveling. And we thought about going this fall. And then Russ and I really prayed and talked about moving things into 2022 just to feel really secure. Nothing's ever 100% secure, but as secure as we can feel, there should be no reason, Russ. I think you're taking tours as early as this fall, aren't you? You're starting to tour pretty soon.
Yeah, we are. We have 7 tours that are still stayed in fall of this year, and 2 to Greece, and the rest of them going to Israel.
Yeah.
And they're all excited. But they're nervous like everybody else is because I can't give them answers on what's happening. So,
and is it a direct flight from Washington to Israel?
I don't know that yet because I haven't got the schedule. I won't know that until June.
Okay.
Usually it's not. Usually you have a stopover someplace in the European side, and it also depends on which airline we take.
Okay.
Once we know that, we'll be able to see that.
I have a question.
Yes,
So when you mentioned about if you would end up getting placed in a room by yourself, whether, just the way it works out and you would need that extra a little bit over 1,000, when would you know that just so that like we could be prepared in case that would happen? Like if we're willing to have a roommate, but it just didn't work out with the number of people that went, if that makes sense.
Yeah. If you're stuck by the time the final payment due date is due, and for some reason you registered late and there's no one to room with you, we will not charge you the extra room charge for that until 30 days prior to the trip to give it more time for other people to possibly register.
Okay.
And then if they do that, then otherwise, then we would have to invoice you for that part of it. But we would try to do our best to find someone else to room with you. But that extra time frame, sometimes we do have last minute registrations. And so it could work out. The only reason we charge is if you want to room by yourself. But we try to hold off until we absolutely have to.
Well, I'm trying to convince my husband to go.
Well, there you go. That would solve it.
Yeah.
My husband and Craig and John together.
Maybe we should take off the tag women's Bible study and just call it Bible study.
That too.
Yeah.
Even though it will become a Bible study later, just, Are the rooms 2 double beds usually?
No, typically they're 2 twin beds that are pulled together for a couple or split up for 2 individuals. There are rooms for triples, so people can stay if you have triple room. There's $100 for only $100 discount for somebody who wants a room buying the triple. But I'll tell you, that's not super big rooms there, and so there are some folks who do it with mother, father, and a child, that sort of thing. But it's typically 2 twin beds, so they can pull them together and split them, so they have maximum usage of the room.
Okay. Now, I haven't been there since 1987, so I wanted to ask you about public restrooms, because for me, that was an issue with the little Arab woman with a square of toilet paper who was charging you money for it. And they were like squatty potties that were in really bad shape. So I'm just wondering how that is now. Is that something that's still?
Well, I'll be honest with you. We tell people that, and we always go through this before you start to leave. We'll have another meeting like this, either in person or we'll do it hopefully in person. We'll go over some of the finer details, but I always tell women to make sure you bring a box of tissue or a couple rolls of toilet paper, because it's not as if they're not going to have it for you because they don't want to. It's that the place is so busy, they just run out. There are a few bathrooms where you do have to pay 4 shekels to get in, and it's about $1. And it's run, all the bathrooms that are run by Bedouins, they are nomadic individuals. And that's how they make their living. Mm-hmm. So you have to pay that to get into it. If they run out of toilet paper, they're not going to run out to the grocery store and buy any. They'll probably end up trying to give you a tissue to use. So I just tell people that going there, the women especially, that you're better off to bring a box or 2 of tissues and maybe 1 or 2 rolls of toilet paper. It'll save you. It really will help.
Sounds good.
That's a great question. That was a really good one.
Sammy,
I always get it.
Strawberries. I was there for Passover and Easter, and it was amazing. But also this time of year, the strawberries are amazing there. So I just had to say that.
Very good. Yes.
Sammy, I already talked to Keri today. Like, I would be okay if I need to have a single room. Like, if it ends up where like someone's just kind of stranded and didn't want a single room, like Caroline and Keri will keep tabs on each other and who's kind of coming and who's kind of singles that could stay together. And so I know that can seem like that's a big amount to add on. So we'll try to be really sensitive to that and pay attention with Russ. Russ keeps us notified of who's registering and keeps track of that. I already know of a few couples that want to go, but I know there will be some single women that we can pair up. So don't let that stress you. Caroline and Keri will work that out a little bit.
And we've actually got our system set up now, Angela, where Keri will have access to the manifest at her whim.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a little thing she does using her a code, and she gets to go right in and monitor it every day. So it's not a big deal.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? I want to be sensitive to your time.
We're good.
Okay. Well, if you have any questions that you haven't thought of now and you want to ask it later, I'm gonna give you my email address and my phone number now. You can write it down, or Keri will make sure you get it as well. But my email address is Russ, R-U-S-S, at faithbasedexpeditions.com, name of our company. And my cell phone number is area code 206-679-6893. I'm the only one that answers the phone. So when you call, you're going to get me. And I have my cell phone with me all the time. And so I will do my best to respond. If I don't get you when you call, I'll call you right back. So, okay, I'll do it one more time. Russ at faithbasedexpeditions.com. My phone number is area code 206-679-6893.
And that is also in the chat.
Oh, there you go.
Russ,
Right.
could you close us out in prayer tonight?
Yes, ma'am, I will. Oh, Heavenly Father, what a wonderful time we have had tonight to talk about the possibility of witnessing you on what you did, the miracles, the incredible healings in the country by which you did it. We know, Father, that if these people who they are able to go, these individuals, and they choose that this is something that's a dream for them, they will not be the same when they get back. I can almost guarantee it. So, Father, I lift up every one of them here. I know some are worried a little bit about money, maybe time. I ask you, Father, to be upon them, give them comfort, and give them insight and wisdom on what they need to do in order to make this thing happen. I lift them all up to you, Father, especially Angela and Carol, as they're going to prepare to do this trip. Being a tour leader is not easy. And so I lift them up to you, Father, for insight and for strength and for mental acuity. So again, we thank you tonight, Father. Thank you for Keri for putting this thing together. And I just want to bless all of this with you in your precious son's name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. If you have anything, please just reach out to any of us, and we just appreciate that you all came. And please get me your mailing address so we can get those books out to you. We know well, I can tell you it's an amazing book, and you will thoroughly enjoy it. And it'll give you a little bit of a taste if you don't know Carol. She's just an awesome author, writer, speaker, Bible teacher, just as Angela is. So thank you all for coming tonight. And if you want the recording or you have other questions, we can also just shoot out the recording to everybody too.